All right, let's get right into it with this deep dive on threat hunting. We've got a whole bunch of reports and articles, and wow, it really seems like threat hunting is becoming a pretty big deal. It's kind of like having, cybersecurity detectives on the case, but instead of solving crimes after they happen, they're trying to stop them before they even start.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Threat hunting is all about being proactive. It's about, almost assuming that there are threats already lurking in your network, even if, your regular security tools haven't picked up on anything yet.
So it's not just about, like, reacting to alarms and red flags.
No, not at all. Threat hunters are constantly on the lookout, searching for those little signs of malicious activity, those things that might slip through the cracks.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. So what does that actually look like? Where do these threat hunters even begin?
Well, the first step is what we call hypothesis creation, and it really is a bit like detective work. Threat hunters look at things like intelligence reports, industry trends, even their own intuition to kind of formulate a hypothesis about what kind of threats might be targeting a specific organization.
So they're not just randomly searching for anything suspicious. They're working with, like, a specific theory.
Exactly. Let's say, there's been a big increase in ransomware attacks that are targeting financial institutions. A threat hunter might think, okay, my organization is a bank. We could very well be the next target. That becomes their starting point.
Interesting. So once they have that hypothesis, what's next?
Okay, so the next stage is investigation. And this is where the real digging begins. Threat hunters dive into the organization's data, armed with a whole bunch of different tools. They analyze things like system logs, network traffic, endpoint data, basically anything that might hold a clue.
I bet that involves going through a ton of data. I mean, it sounds kind of overwhelming. What tools do they use to make sense of it all?
Oh, yeah, they use a bunch of different tools. One of them is called a SIEM system that stands for Security Information and Event Management. And these systems are like central hubs that gather security data from all different sources. And that allows hunters to spot patterns, anomalies, those things that might suggest malicious activity.
So it's not just about having a lot of data. It's about being able to understand it,
Right.
finding those little signs that something isn't right.
Exactly. And they also use things like behavioral analytics. That tracks how users and systems usually behave, so they can pick up on any changes, anything out of the ordinary. And they also use these threat intelligence platforms. They provide up-to-date info about the latest malware, attack techniques, all those indicators that something's compromised.
Oh, so it's a mix of technology, data analysis, and good old-fashioned detective work.
Yeah, you could say that. But it doesn't just stop at finding something suspicious. The next phase is analysis and detection. This is where threat hunters really have to use their skills. They look very carefully at all the data, anything that matches up with their initial hypothesis. They're trying to put the pieces together and figure out, is there a real threat here, or is this just a false alarm?
Okay, so let's say they do find a real threat, then what?
Well, then that sets off what we call the neutralization stage. Threat hunters have to take immediate action to contain and get rid of the threat. This could mean isolating infected systems, blocking those malicious IP addresses, or patching vulnerabilities, whatever it takes to stop the threat in its tracks.
So it's like a digital SWAT team, right? Swooping in to neutralize the threat. What's that look like in real time? I'm picturing flashing red lights, people running around.
Well, it's not quite that dramatic, but there's definitely a sense of urgency. So the first thing is the Security Operations Center, or SOC, gets alerted. The SOC is like, think of it as the central nervous system of an organization's cyber defenses.
Okay, so the SOC is like the command center. What do they do once they get the alert?
They spring into action, coordinating everything to contain that threat. This might involve isolating the affected systems from the rest of the network, like a digital quarantine so it can't spread. Or maybe they'll restrict user access to certain data or systems just to limit the potential damage.
So they're basically locking down those areas, keeping the bad guys contained.
Exactly. Once they've got it contained, they can focus on getting rid of it completely and recovering any data that was lost or compromised. They'll use tools to remove any malicious code, clean up any mess that's left, and get those systems back to a secure state.
So it's not just about fighting off the attack. It's about making sure the system fully recovers and is ready to handle future attacks. What happens when everything's back to normal? Do they just move on to the next potential threat?
Well, not exactly. One really important step that sometimes people forget about is the post-incident analysis. Once things have calmed down, the SOC does a thorough investigation. They need to understand exactly what happened, how did that threat get past their defenses, and what can they do to stop it from happening again?
It's like looking at the crime scene, figuring out how the thieves broke in, and then making the house more secure.
Exactly. They'll analyze all the logs, look at their security configurations. They might even talk to users just to piece together the whole attack chain. This helps them find any weak spots in their defenses and put in place stronger measures to prevent similar attacks in the future.
So it sounds like threat hunting isn't just about reacting to each individual threat. It's about always learning and improving the overall security of the organization.
You got it. And that's one of the things that makes threat hunting so valuable. It's proactive and it's always evolving.
Okay, I can definitely see why this is becoming so important. But what are the benefits that make it worth the investment?
Well, one of the big ones is enhanced threat detection. Threat hunters are specifically looking for things that traditional defenses might miss, like your firewalls or antivirus software. They're looking for those hidden threats, and those are often the most dangerous.
So they're like the special forces of cybersecurity, right? Going beyond the front lines.
Haha, that's one way to put it. And when you catch those threats early, you can respond faster, which makes a huge difference in reducing the damage. The quicker you can contain and eliminate a threat, the less chance it has to spread, steal data, or disrupt everything.
Yeah, time is definitely important in cybersecurity.
Absolutely. And that leads us to another benefit: less downtime. Proactive threat hunting helps organizations find and fix vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. This means fewer security incidents, fewer system outages, and less disruption to the business.
So it's not just about data protection, it's about keeping everything running smoothly.
Exactly. And by doing this continuous threat hunting, organizations can really strengthen their overall security. They're plugging holes, making it much harder for attackers to get in.
It's like they're constantly reinforcing their fortress.
Exactly. And we can't forget about compliance. A lot of industry regulations and data privacy laws now require organizations to have proactive threat detection. And threat hunting helps them meet those requirements and show they're serious about cybersecurity.
So it's not just a good idea, it's becoming a legal requirement in a lot of cases. But let's be real, not everyone has the resources to build their own team of cyber detectives. What about organizations that can't afford a dedicated threat hunting team?
That's a good point. Building and maintaining a full-on threat hunting team requires specialized skills. You need the tools, ongoing training. It's a big investment.
So what's the alternative? Can they still benefit from threat hunting without building a team from scratch?
Definitely. That's where threat hunting as a service comes in.
Threat hunting as a service, what's that?
A lot of organizations are partnering with cybersecurity firms that offer threat hunting as a service. It's like outsourcing your threat hunting capabilities to a team of experts who have all the latest tools and technologies.
That sounds like a good option for, say, smaller businesses or those who just don't have the resources to build their own team.
It is. These services usually offer 24/7 monitoring and incident response, so you know that someone's always watching your network, even when you're asleep. They also give you access to advanced technology and analytics platforms, which might be too expensive for a company to get and manage on their own.
So you're getting the expertise in the technology without having to build a whole internal team. It's like having your own elite cybersecurity team on call.
Yeah, exactly. And you also get a team of highly skilled threat hunters who have dealt with all kinds of sophisticated threats. They've seen it all, so they know what to look for, how to quickly contain threats, and how to prevent them from coming back.
I bet that peace of mind is worth a lot for many organizations. But with all this talk about advanced tools and human expertise, I wonder, what's the role of technology in the future of threat hunting? Are we moving towards a world where machines do everything?
That's a great question. The future of threat hunting is really exciting, and it's going to be shaped by some incredible technologies.
Okay, give us a glimpse into the future. What kind of sci-fi stuff are we talking about?
Well, AI and machine learning are going to be absolutely game-changing. These technologies will let threat hunters analyze massive amounts of data at incredible speeds, finding patterns and anomalies that humans might miss.
So AI will be like the ultimate digital detective, going through mountains of data super fast and accurately. Will it replace human experts completely?
While AI is incredibly powerful, I don't think it will completely replace humans. Instead, it's going to enhance their capabilities. Machines can do the heavy lifting, which will free up human threat hunters to focus on those more complex and challenging threats.
So it's a partnership, combining human ingenuity and machine intelligence.
Exactly. Think of it like this. The machines are the eyes and ears, constantly feeding information. But it's the human brain that has to make sense of it all, see the big picture, and decide what to do.
That's a great analogy. And it makes me wonder, with AI taking over more tasks, will we need fewer human threat hunters? Or will it actually make their role more important?
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely dive into more in the next part of our deep dive. It's a question, with no easy answers. Technology is definitely going to play a bigger role in threat hunting, but those human instincts like intuition and being creative, they're always going to be super important too.
So it's not as simple as machines just taking over.
Not at all. I mean, cyber criminals, they're always changing their tactics, right? They're always looking for new ways to exploit vulnerabilities and sneak past security. They're creative, they're really driven, and they're constantly adapting to, whatever defenses are out there.
So it's like a never-ending game of cat and mouse, both sides trying to outsmart each other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where human ingenuity is so crucial. Threat hunters have to be able to think like their adversaries, get inside their heads, anticipate their next move, and then develop those strategies to counter them.
It sounds like a high-stakes game of chess, always thinking several moves ahead.
That's a perfect analogy. Machines are great at analyzing data, spotting patterns and automating tasks, but they just don't have that same level of creativity and intuition, that strategic thinking that humans do.
So we need that human element to stay ahead, to expect the unexpected, and basically outwit the bad guys.
Exactly. Threat hunters need to be able to see those connections that machines might miss, grasp that bigger picture, and make those tough judgment calls, based on experience, intuition, and a deep understanding of the whole threat landscape.
It's amazing that even with all this advanced technology, human intuition is still so important in this fight against cybercrime.
It really is. And, that brings us to another reason why human expertise will always be needed. As AI and automation become more common in threat hunting, we'll need people to make sure these technologies are being used ethically.
Right, we want to make sure these powerful tools are used for good and don't accidentally cause harm.
Absolutely. Things like, what are the potential unintended consequences? We need to make sure there's transparency, accountability, and how these technologies are developed and used.
So it's not just about the technology advancing, it's about using it responsibly, ethically.
Exactly. The future of threat hunting is going to require a multidisciplinary approach. It's not just cybersecurity experts, but also data scientists, legal professionals, making sure we're using these powerful tools in a way that benefits everyone.
This is a really complex and fast-changing field. The stakes are clearly incredibly high.
They are. Threats are getting more sophisticated, attacks more frequent, and the impact of a cyber attack can be devastating for individuals and organizations.
So what does all this mean for organizations and individuals? What steps can they take to protect themselves in this constantly shifting threat landscape?
Well, first things first, you need a strong cybersecurity strategy. That includes things like, strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, keeping software up to date, and training employees to be aware of threats.
So building a solid foundation of security and making sure everyone is on board aware of the risks.
Exactly. But it's important to go beyond those basics and look at more advanced security measures, things like intrusion detection systems, endpoint protection software, and of course, threat hunting capabilities.
We've talked a lot about the benefits of threat hunting, but it can be a bit daunting, especially for smaller organizations or those with limited resources.
I get that, but there are ways to approach it strategically. Start by focusing on the most critical assets, the data and systems that are most valuable and vulnerable. Partnering with cybersecurity firms that offer threat hunting as a service is also an option. You can tap into their expertise in technology.
That's a good point. Finding that balance between in-house expertise and outside support, depending on the needs and resources of the organization.
Precisely. And here's another important thing. Stay informed. The threat landscape is constantly changing, so you need to keep up with the latest threats, vulnerabilities, and attack techniques.
So it's continuous learning, always adapting your defenses.
Absolutely. Read security blogs, go to conferences, connect with the cybersecurity community. That's how you stay ahead of the curve.
It's a team effort. Everyone has a part to play in protecting themselves and their organizations from cyber attacks.
You're absolutely right. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. By working together, sharing information, and being proactive, we can create a safer digital world for everyone.
That's a really powerful message. It's about being empowered, working together, and a shared commitment to cybersecurity. You mentioned before that threat hunters need to think like the adversary. Can you talk more about that? What kind of mindset is needed to be a successful threat hunter?
That's a great question. It really gets to what makes threat hunting so unique and challenging. It's not just about technical skills, it's about having the right mindset.
So more than just knowing the tools, it's about having a certain way of thinking.
Exactly. Threat hunters need to be able to think outside the box, challenge assumptions, and look at problems from all angles. They need to be curious, skeptical, always wanting to learn new things.
Almost like a healthy dose of paranoia. Always looking for trouble, even when things seem okay.
There's a bit of that, but it's not just being paranoid, it's about being proactive. Anticipating threats, finding weaknesses, and taking steps to reduce risk before they can be exploited.
So always staying one step ahead, thinking about what the attackers might do next.
Precisely. They need to put themselves in the attacker's shoes, understand their motives, their tactics, their goals.
It's like that mental chess match again.
Exactly. They need to think several moves ahead, anticipate what the adversary will do, and come up with countermeasures to disrupt their plans.
It takes a certain kind of person to excel in this field. What qualities do you look for in a threat hunter?
Well, first and foremost, they have to be passionate about cybersecurity. It's not just a job, it's a calling. They need to be driven by that desire to protect systems, data, and people from harm.
It's like a sense of mission, a real belief in the importance of the work.
Absolutely. They also need to be highly analytical, detail-oriented. Threat hunting involves going through huge amounts of data, looking for tiny clues that could point to a problem.
Like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Spotting those tiny anomalies that might signal something bigger.
Exactly. And they need to be good communicators, both written and verbal. Being able to explain complex technical stuff to non-technical people, writing clear reports, presenting findings in a way that people understand is essential.
So not just a tech expert, but also able to translate those findings into something everyone can understand.
That's it. And finally, they have to be team players. Threat hunting is rarely a solo job. It takes collaboration, communication, and a willingness to share knowledge and expertise with others.
Working together, combining strengths, everyone working towards a shared goal.
Exactly. That's one of the things that makes threat hunting so rewarding. You're making a real difference, protecting people from harm, and contributing to a safer digital world.
That's a powerful message that I think will resonate with a lot of people drawn to this field. We talked about human intuition being important in threat hunting. As AI and automation get more advanced, is there a risk that we become too reliant on technology and lose that human element?
That's a great question. We'll explore that further in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, it's a question that I think is on a lot of people's minds these days.
It is,
It,
it's a tough balance. On the one hand, we have these amazing new technologies, right, that can analyze so much data, automate all kinds of tasks, and spot threats so quickly. But we don't want to lose those uniquely human qualities that are so important, like intuition, creativity, critical thinking.
so it's not just machines taking over. Sounds like it's more about figuring out how they can work together, how to combine the best of both.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it as a partnership. Human ingenuity and artificial intelligence working side by side.
So the machines can handle, like, the grunt work, combing through all that data and flagging potential issues.
Exactly. And then the human experts, they're the ones who interpret those findings, connect the dots, and make the decisions about how to respond.
Okay, so the machines are like the eyes and ears, right? Feeding us all this information, but it's still the human brain that has to make sense of it all.
That's a great way to put it. And here's where it gets really interesting. I think AI and automation are actually going to make the role of the human threat hunter even more important.
Really? That's surprising. I would have thought that more automation means we need fewer humans involved.
Well, here's the thing. As machines take over those routine tasks, it frees up human experts to focus on the more complex, challenging stuff, the things machines just can't do.
Oh, I see. So it's like upgrading the role of the threat hunter from tactical to something more strategic.
Exactly. Think about it. Instead of spending hours, just sifting through logs and chasing down false alarms, they can focus on developing new hunting techniques, researching emerging threats, and collaborating with other experts.
So they become like the architects of the defenses,
Yeah.
the masterminds behind it all.
Exactly. And there's another reason why the human element is going to be so critical. As cyber criminals start using AI and automation themselves, we're going to need human experts on our side who can understand those tactics and figure out how to counter them. It's like a constant arms race.
So it's not just about keeping up with technology, it's about staying ahead,
Yeah.
figuring out what the bad guys might do next and finding ways to outsmart them.
Exactly. That's where human intuition and creativity are so crucial. Machines can follow rules, they can analyze data, but they don't have that same ability to think outside the box.
We still need that human spark, that ability to see things from different perspective, connect those dots a machine might miss, and come up with really creative solutions.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the nuts and bolts of threat hunting all the way to what the future holds.
It's been a fascinating conversation,
Yeah.
and I'm actually pretty optimistic about what the future holds.
Me too. I think we're entering a really exciting time for cybersecurity.
And it sounds like threat hunting is going to be right at the forefront of that.
Absolutely. Being proactive, always learning, and adapting to the ever-changing threat landscape, that's what it's all about.
Well said. This has been a fantastic deep dive. Thanks so much for joining me and sharing your expertise.
It was my pleasure.
And to all of you listening out there, stay safe, stay vigilant, and keep hunting those threats. That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. See you next time.